Target Breach Analysis by Mandy Papasek. In December of 2013, it was discovered that over 40 million of Target's customers' credit card accounts had become compromised. This breach was caused by a security failure that had a massive impact, the effects of which can still be felt for these customers today. The implications of this attack should be seen as a warning to all corporations. They should review the facts of this case and learn from Target's mistakes in order to ensure they are doing everything in their power to protect their customers and vital systems. There were several circumstances that led up to this breach. Target's vendors were hit with phishing attempts at least 2 months before the successful attack. There was a lack of segregation between user accounts and some of Target's systems that allowed hackers to gain access to other systems, moving laterally through various environments. The detection strategies employed by Target were poor due to improperly trained employees that were already spread too thin. Vital systems to Target's operational capabilities were vulnerable to outside threats. Target's main source of security validation was through PCI compliance audits. Clearly, the mechanisms put in place to pass regulations did not go far enough to protect its systems from attack. Target chose to spend its allotted security budget on the purchase of advanced security products, but did not ensure there were enough staff to properly monitor these systems, nor that they were trained well enough to understand the safeguards in place. During the attack, a software monitoring company called FireEye alerted Target staff of the hack. However, no action was taken to stop or mitigate the damage. The hack started with targeted phishing attempts to Target's vendors, including a successful attack in which malware was installed in Fazio Mechanical Systems, a refrigerator vendor of Target's. The malware was used to steal the vendor's credentials and infiltrate Target's vendor portal. From this point, hackers were able to pivot from this system and gain access to other systems, discovering misconfigurations and exploiting vulnerabilities. The attackers used common network tools in order to gain more information into the inner workings of Target systems. From there, hackers were able to install malware onto Target's point-of-sale system in order to gather customer credit card information and relay captures back to the hackers via an ICMP tunnel. After a post-incident investigation, several more weaknesses in Target systems, policies, and procedures were discovered. While Target employed the use of encryption methods, data was stored unencrypted in memory storage, allowing the hackers to bypass this security safeguard. Vulnerable configurations of vendor accounts allowed security segregation to be bypassed by hackers, which allowed them to move laterally through Target's computing environment until they reached their target. Security staff was not trained nor had sufficient man-hours to be able to monitor and detect vulnerabilities. There were no additional protections for Target's highly sensitive systems, allowing hackers to easily break through. In addition, there were no controls to prevent the unauthorized access to Target's point-of-sale machines, which could have stopped the hackers from gaining access to customer information. There is a lot that can be learned from the 2013 Target breach. For example, it is vital for businesses to consider the human factors that make breaches possible. A periodic review of vendor contracts and their access to organizational systems can prevent these relationships from becoming a vulnerability to the company's intellectual assets. The use of multi-layered defense in-depth strategies is vital to preventing attacks. The more indifferent kinds of safeguards employed, the less likely the hacker will be able to breach all of the layers. Regulation compliance is not enough to ensure that an organization's systems are protected from attacks. Security mechanisms and policies should be reviewed periodically, and this information should not be easily accessible to anyone outside of the company. There are several conclusions that can be drawn from analyzing Target's breach. Businesses should learn not to rely on a single strategy or tool when it comes to cybersecurity, instead opting for a layered approach that will ensure assets are properly protected. Companies can spend outrageous amounts of money on top-of-the-line security products, but it will be a waste if they are not properly trained staff that interact with these environments. High-risk systems should always have the most secure precautions taken, especially when such system is internet-facing. There are several additional security safeguards that can be employed, such as application whitelisting and the use of TRSN system to ensure the security of these high-risk systems. Above all else, organizations must consider the vulnerabilities human error can pose to these systems. Relationships with vendors and an assessment of staff capabilities and understanding of security must be reviewed in order to ensure the company is protected against attacks.